Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Real Positive Girl podcast. My name is Sabrina. Happy Tuesday to you all. I hope that you're having a fantastic day. I apologize in advance. There is a fly in this room right now, and it's going to drive me crazy. And I couldn't get it out. And, it's just the things that happen when you decide to record stuff, and then it's like, oh, let's just have all these annoying things happen. But it's okay. It's not a big deal. It's like serious number one first world problems, but it's just annoying. So I apologize if you end up hearing any sort of buzzing in the background, but Fly decided to join me today as my co-host. So again, happy Tuesday. I hope that you're having a fantastic day. Whether your day is just beginning, in the middle, or towards the end, I hope that it's going really well. And if it's not going well, I encourage you to do the 5-minute reset, which is where you take at least 5 minutes to be alone, to shake off any issues, problems, burdens that are upon you that are causing you so much stress, anxiety, whatever you may be feeling. Just take some time to kind of shake it all off and take a breather and take the opportunity to reset, reboot, come back to baseline, and just start your day over again from that point. And you are able to do this as many times as you need to in the day, week, month, or year, because resetting your day is one of those amazing freedoms that I feel like a lot of us do not take advantage of, which is why I talk about it at the top of every single episode, because I want to remind you and kind of drill it into you that you are able to restart and just refresh your day and just take it from the top again. And despite what's happened, and despite how your day's going, and who is getting in your way, and what things are kind of raining down on you, and what's coming up in your life, you still have the opportunity to start it over and just have a refresh. But in addition to having the time alone, spend some time problem solving any problems that you can, so the rest of your day and the next day and ongoing can be better and more fruitful and more positive for you. Also, I encourage you to make a list of at least 4 things that you are grateful for, and that can be big things, small things, medium-sized things. You can be grateful that you were able to take a day off of work, or that you were able to get some overtime at work, or maybe you got some positive feedback from one of your coworkers, your boss, your manager, whomever at work, and then work is just going well, better than expected, and you feel very blessed by the opportunity to be able to work or get a raise, or just be excelling in your job despite the current world circumstances. So like I said, you can be anything that you can be grateful for, which creates a never-ending list of things you can be grateful for, because you can be grateful for really big things, small things, medium things. It's just such a great variety. And gratitude is such an amazing mindset shifter, and it can really help change your perspective and help you take a step back from anything that is causing you stress and anxiety, all the really bad things that are happening in your life. Take a step back and realize what you can still be grateful for, what you can still be happy about, what is still positive in your life, and help you not get super sucked into all the negative feelings you could be having because of what is right in front of you and what is happening to you right at this moment. So I encourage you to do that. And last but not least, make sure that you feel at least neutral, if not positive, about the rest of your day before leaving the 5-minute reset, so that you don't pass your bad attitude along to anyone else, and that you just have that perspective mindset shift going into the rest of the day, so that you can finish the rest of the day again feeling neutral or positive about the rest of your day. And just know that tomorrow can be a better day, especially if you start now and your mindset can fully shift up to that positiveness if it is sitting in neutral. So I just encourage you to take the 5-minute reset if you're having a hard day. However, I hope that this Tuesday you are actually having a great day. Just a reminder that this week we are talking about regaining self-worth. And today, Tuesday, we're going to talk about self-worth versus self-esteem. So let's go ahead and just jump right in. Let's start with a distinction. Self-esteem is what you think, believe, and feel about yourself. But self-worth is knowing that you are more than all those things, knowing that you are valuable, lovable, and needed in this world. And it's pretty easy to mix these two up or believe these things are the same, but just know that they are not the same. Similar, yes, but not the same. And the biggest problem with that is that when you go on Google and you decide to search up anything that has to do with self-worth, a lot of times, many things talking about self-esteem will pop up, and some things will pop up about talking about self-worth. And I actually did this because, in doing my research about this and wanting to find very specific pieces of knowledge to include in the episode, I noticed that when I was typing in phrases that had self-worth in it, so many search results came up that were at the top that actually were talking about self-esteem. And I feel like the distinction needs to be made because a lot of people might feel like it's the same thing, or might just assume it's the same thing, or it might be easier for people to think it's the same thing as opposed to actually taking the time to see the slight differences and distinctions between those two things. But it's very important for you to realize that those things are different, and if you actually do internalize the distinction, and you can use it for your benefit actually in developing your self-esteem, and also keeping a close eye on your self-esteem, and then in addition making sure that your self-worth is up to par. So self-esteem is how we evaluate ourselves. It's us doing our own assessments and evaluations of who we are, what we are doing, and whether or not we are doing it well. And having healthy self-esteem is super important because if you aren't staying aware of your self-esteem being on an even keel, it will shift to one of the two extremes. So healthy self-esteem means that you have an honest and realistic idea of what you're all about. So you understand that there are pluses and minuses about who you are, how you operate as a person, how you think, the things that you do, you're very realistic, having those come to Jesus moments with yourself. But when your self-esteem is too high, you regard yourself much higher than you should, including exaggerating your traits and downplaying your faults. And it flies close to being a narcissist. So, when you're feeling yourself real hard, you know what I mean? And you're just thinking that all your positive traits are much higher and bigger and better than they truly would be perceived if you actually saw it in a realistic view. Also, you're downplaying any faults and not really, acknowledging how things that you need to work on or things that you are necessarily doing wrong. Again, those moments where you need to be more realistic with yourself, that is when your self-esteem is running too high. However, but when it's too low, you don't treat yourself as well because you think too poorly of yourself. You're putting yourself down. You think that you're crap. You're saying so many negative things to yourself. You're accepting all the negative things that people are saying about you as truth and fact, when in reality that's not true, because everyone has an opinion, and it doesn't mean that everyone's opinion actually matters or is true. So those are definitely the two extremes, but it's important to have a healthy balance of self-esteem. And self-worth is your belief that you are valuable, important, lovable, despite what you may think about your skills, abilities, failures, and successes. So if your self-esteem starts to plummet or go sideways for some reason, your self-worth still allows you to love yourself and know you still have worth in this world. You cannot feel good about yourself, but still know you are valuable and important in the world. And I find that is one of the most important distinctions, is because your self-esteem, of course, if your self-esteem is much too high and you think so highly of yourself, you probably are going to have a positive self-worth. I do think it's possible for someone to have a self-worth that is maybe not as high and not at the point where it needs to be, and think highly of yourself, because it's kind of when you have really high self-esteem, I believe that it's a facade in your mind, because you can still feel super insecure, and that's the reason why you are overcompensating for everything about yourself to help yourself look better to others, to look better to yourself. You're kind of just putting on a show in your mind and outwardly to try to prove it to everyone. But when your self-esteem is low, generally people really know, and you're just really crapping on yourself. But yeah, you can have you can still be rocking your self-worth even if your self-esteem is kind of like going down in the dumps, because you truly know that you are worth something. Even if your self-esteem is so low and you're like, man, I'm not doing very good at this thing, and I'm not like the most popular person, and I am not excelling at these things, but I do know that I'm worthy of care and love, and I'm important, so I need to try to, get it together. And, you can have those dips, but at least that self-worth is going to continue to help you climb back up into that hopefully healthy region of self-esteem. So the thing that can really disrupt your self-worth is depression. So depression can cause you to think you aren't worthy of so many things, which causes your self-worth to plummet. It's a matter of your perception getting twisted, even to the point that you don't believe you deserve love, but that others do, despite the fact that self-worth is the idea that you should have the same feelings about yourself that you do about others and what they deserve. So, you're over here. If your self-worth plummets, and I honestly do not believe that your self-worth can be super high on that extreme, because usually when you are in that zone of like, that you're worth something, that you're valuable, and if any reason someone thinks that your self-worth is too high, it's really just your self-esteem like kind of taking over. That's what I personally believe based on the research I've done. But yeah, if you do encounter depression, it can really take a toll on your self-worth, because you all of a sudden, like I said, your perspective gets twisted, because all of a sudden you don't think you're worthy of all the things that everyone else is, and you don't think you're valuable in this world. You don't think you should be a part of this world. You just think that you're nothing, that you're invisible. And however, you have the mindset and the belief that all these other people out there are so worthy of love and care, and they're super important. And so, but that's the point. Having self-worth is believing that you are just as worthy and valuable and important and lovable as the next person. So that's why I say that your perspective gets twisted, because the depression will bring you into those super, super lows where you think that you're worth nothing, where you are basically nothing, invisible, just like so heartbroken. And so that it's really important to know the things that can really inhibit and kind of break down self-worth, and we are going to talk about that I think tomorrow's episode or the next day. I can't remember the order that I put them in, but we are going to talk more about that this week. So if you are interested in trying of learning what breaks down self-worth, so that you can be like on the lookout for that, or if you are struggling with your own self-worth and you can kind of be aware of the things that are trying to kind of bring it down, then you can be aware of that and kind of get those things in check, so that you don't continue to plummet in your self-worth. And then another episode this week, we were talking about how to regain your self-worth. But it's also important to note that self-esteem is also influenced by outside events and experiences. You're basing how you think about yourself based on other people's feedback, opinions, your experiences with others, and how you feel and thrive in life. And unfortunately, by letting these things completely dictate your self-esteem, you limit your beliefs of yourself and ability to believe in yourself. So, it's just a simple idea of everything that comes in from the world and from other people, you're taking it in as actual fact, actual knowledge, actual truth, and you're allowing those ideas and those opinions to dictate how you can think about yourself, how you can believe in who you are and what you're all about. And so it's important to know that this is why it is extremely important that there is a balance in your self-esteem. Take in some feedback and disregard others. You have to figure out that balance and understand where it's important to take the feedback that you believe is constructive and important, and then the other one where people are just bullying you or projecting their own insecurities on you because of their own personal issues, which I feel like happens a lot and more than people think. So it's really important to understand how the outside world, outside of our own mind, can really dictate how we think of ourselves and how we evaluate ourselves and assess ourselves because of what everyone else says. And we so desperately want to show ourselves as being the same or better, at least being on the same playing field, at least, being able to do the same things and to be on the same level as people, and to not end up being boring or plain or insignificant. And it's such a hard game, because I feel like the key is to just believe that we are amazing in our own right. And the more time that we spend focusing on that and realizing that we're all different for a reason, so that we can all learn from each other, the better that we all will be. Some people would say that self-worth is on more of a spiritual level, however you want to think about that, but it can be seen as more of an essence of who you are. Another way to think about it is that self-worth is always inside of you. It's just a matter of bringing it up and out to shine. And I think there is some truth to that, because generally, if you have a sense of self-worth, you have an unconditional sense of who you are, that you matter, you're worthy of everything anyone else is, and you don't find the need to prove yourself in every single thing. Also, your goal should be to match your self-esteem to your self-worth, which should ultimately mean it's all on an even plane. So, I believe that like your self-worth can definitely dip down, but it can't dip too high. So it comes back up to the level that it needs to be. Then your self-worth, if you're able to match your self-esteem, if you're able to match both of those together and your self-esteem isn't too high or too low, then you're like at an even playing you're on an even playing field for everything. So you're able to evaluate and assess yourself in a real way, in an honest way, actually like doing it realistically. But then you're also, in being able to do that, you also still know and understand that you are valuable. Despite any mistakes you may make, you are worthy despite any mistakes that you make, and you are important in this world, and that you're lovable despite how different you are, how differently you live your life, how you are not trying to be out there being better than the next person all the time. You understand that you are important and amazing in who you are in your own self. You understand that you are worthy just by being alive and accepting yourself for who you are. So I would just try to internalize that. It's hard. It's really hard. It's hard for me. I can honestly tell you that I still haven't gotten to the point where my self-worth is, brought up to the point where it needs to be, which I would say is on full, right? My self-esteem is definitely low. I would say everything about me is low, especially in the season that I was in. And I feel like I recently transitioned to a new season of life, and I am struggling to understand how it's supposed to be and how it's supposed to work. Honestly, I can tell you that there was a moment where things just clicked and changed, and I was so excited and so grateful that I'd finally moved on from that really, 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 really long, tough season that I was in. And now I'm kind of at the beginning stages where I don't know what the heck is going on. I'm super confused, still grateful because this season I'm in right now is appearing and seeming better than the one I was in before, but I understand that it's going to come with new challenges, harder things for me to figure out and understand. But again, my self-esteem and my self-worth have still been low this whole time, and I was really looking forward to it kind of rising up and coming together at this balanced level. And I don't know why I thought it was going to be some automatic thing that was going to happen from a change of season of life. I don't know what I was thinking. I think it was just hope. You know how we have hope that like just one big change in our life will bring so many amazing positive things. I think that's where I was. And I'm still kind of there. I'm kind of thinking that I will find the path to how I can get those things better. And honestly, this week, talking about regaining self-worth is definitely me teaching myself, preaching to myself. I feel like it's much easier for me to teach and talk about things that people need to work on, but know that I still need to work on those things myself. And I think that's what makes it like a beautiful thing, because, I'm not over here like I have all the answers. No, I am doing the research. I'm talking about my experiences. I'm talking about how I struggle with it too, but this is what we can do. We can all do this together. And so I want you to know that I'm not over here sitting like here, I'm perfect, like I've got it all together. Absolutely not. I'm far from it. However, I enjoy doing the research and figuring it out and sharing it with you guys, and then, hopefully helping you on your journey of whatever you're struggling with and whatever you're going through and whatever season of life that you're currently in. But anyway, I've kind of gone on a tangent, but I hope some of that really helped anyone that really needed to hear that. But yeah, I personally am struggling with matching my self-worth and my self-esteem, because I feel like they're both kind of maybe not in the toilet, but just right above that level. And but I find that there is a difference. So I honestly feel like if I'm able to really work on my self-worth, then my self-esteem will rise up after it. It will follow it up. And that's what I truly believe. So I want to leave you with the idea that both self-esteem and self-worth are necessary in life. Separately, not the same thing. And balance is key between those two. But knowing the difference between the two will help you distinguish what you need to do to adjust one or the other if necessary. And like I said, I believe that if you work on your self-worth, then your self-esteem will follow up as well. So thank you so much for listening to the Real Positive Girl podcast. Again, my name is Sabrina. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode today, guys. And I hope that you come back and listen to the rest of the episodes this week. Like I said, I'll be talking about what builds up self-worth and what breaks down self-worth, and how we can use self-worth and why it's important in the world. That's usually the one that I talk about on Friday. It's usually the really fun one. I hope that you really enjoy it. But yeah, please, I hope that you come back and listen to the rest of the episodes this week. Please feel free to visit me over on Instagram, which is at Sabrina Joy Perozzo. Check the description box for notes for the show. Also, my email address for any questions, comments, concerns, or prayer requests, feedback, topic suggestions for me to do in the coming future. But I hope to see you again. But until next time, have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.